Welcome to the Comic Corner. We have the three of us here once again. First, my buddy AF, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, man. I'm good. It's a bit chilly here in Cape Town, but you guys are probably suffering in the heat, so you can't complain. But yeah, I'm excited to get into this. Let's go, man.
I am sweltering. Also, my name is Damon for any new viewers here, and I am melting in this heat. Fat Thor, how are you doing out on the West Coast? Are you also melting, or are you just being like, California weather's amazing?
I'm like halfway melted. I'm like right now it's okay, but it's about to get like 98 later here.
Ooh,
I'm like
okay.
closer to the valley right now, so it's getting pretty toasty. And a big man like me does not do well in big hot climates. So I'm hanging in there. Like I said, not quite melted yet, but I am ready to talk about some great books because my dudes, we have so many great books this week. It's like it was so hard to pick even the ones to talk about.
The only thing hotter than a wetter are these books right now because they have been fire. Speaking of fire, Ultimate Spidey's first arc coming to an end. This is the rundown. Huge reveal in Blood Hunt, but not in a main Blood Hunt book. We'll chat about that. And, of course, Nightwing is coming to an end, and Dick Grayson finally falls. But first, before we get into any of our comic reviews, let's do some comic book news because we do news reviews and interviews. And one of the biggest news stories of the week really has nothing to do with any story itself. It has to do with comics. The Marvel Comics logo has changed a bit. Not drastically, but enough to the point where it raises an eyebrow. As you see, if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, we have logos from the past and the current logo. The new logo, if you know the Marvel Studios logo, imagine that. But instead of Studios, it says Comics. This is actually only like the 5th or 6th time that the Marvel logo for comics has included the word comics in it, which is kind of funny. But initial thoughts, Fat Thor, what do you think?
Well, initial thoughts, I hate it. I don't like it. I mean, I'm personally a fan of like the old school one. I mean, obviously because like that's what I grew up with. But big but here. I will say while I do not like this and I'm not a huge fan of it personally, I do want to say I do think that some people are jumping the gun a little bit of the similarities between this and the MCU logo, which I mean, that is obvious. It is obviously very similar, but I wouldn't jump the gun as quickly to be like, oh, well, this means like the comics are all going to be MCU-ified or like they're bringing all the MCU stuff in the comics. I don't really think that's the case. I mean, obviously I could be wrong, but I just want to put that out there that while, like I said, it might be very similar, obviously they want to have brand recognition among their different, departments. So I wouldn't necessarily say that this means like the comics themselves are going to be changing. So that's just my little spiel. But on the face of it, I don't like this logo. Not a fan.
What do you think about this? Is it enough to change for you?
So as you mentioned, I love the fact that the comics part is back. So Marvel Comics it should always be that way. I mean, when you're reading a comic, you should always have that sort of brand for the reader. And then in terms of the fact that comics is there in this sort of font style, if you look at Marvel Television, Marvel Studios, Marvel Animation, they all have the same sort of display now. And I think it was a decision made way up top. Okay, we're all under the same umbrella. Let's try to make sure that we have a divide across film, across TV, across animation, and across comics. And I think that's what they decided on.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't anything drastic. This is just about, like, the continuity and the synergy between all of the little sub-companies within the big company. Like you said, with Marvel Television, looks exactly the same now. Marvel Animation looks exactly the same now. Marvel Studios. Now, I know TJ Fat Thor mentioned this a little bit. I am a little worried about the quote-unquote MCUification of it all, right? We see it come up in our comics all the time. And maybe this could be a tease for more of that to come. I don't want to sound the alarm just yet because until it happens more within the stories themselves, then, ring that alarm. Although we have seen that a lot previously. But we also have more news from the Marvel Comics side. This is bigger news. This is bigger Marvel Comics news because this is the flagship title from Marvel, The Amazing Spider-Man, which has been done from Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. for the past few years now, is wrapping up. Its final arc is coming to a close, and we're going back to like Tombstone kind of story, which is what it started off with. Actually, the story I enjoyed the most out of this Amazing Spider-Man run was that Tombstone aspect. So I'm glad that that whole thing is getting wrapped up. Now, there's been a lot of negative opinions, negative reviews of this series. We have the whole like Paul aspect. We all just poke and tease and make fun of constantly. But it's tough because this is a character now that is so challenging to like do what the fans want when essentially it's already been done. So, AF, I'll start with you. Like, what do you think Marvel should do with Spider-Man going forward once this run continues?
So, like, I obviously haven't been reading this book except for the issue where, like, the whole Miss Marvel arc that
Oh
happened.
yeah.
I can't remember how long ago that was, because I wanted to find out what was actually happening. So, other than that, I haven't really been following the Amazing Spider-Man book. So, I actually won't be that much in the know in terms of what to do moving forward because I don't actually know what's happening in current continuity.
That's fine. I'll ask this then for both of you. TJ, I'll start off with you. What type of story, like, what would bring you back into the Amazing Spider-Man to like have you pick it up on weekly?
See, that's such a tough question because, like AF, I've been kind of off on the Amazing Spider-Man, and I also will say too that the Spider-Man fandom is just, I don't know how to put this lightly. It's like it's so divided all the time that from an outsider looking in, that like I'm not reading the Zeb run week by week, it's really hard to tell what is actual like valid criticism and what is just people just hating Spider-Man because like there's an old saying, no one hates Spider-Man more than Spider-Man fans, right? So it's like it's hard to differentiate what's real criticism and what's just kind of noise. But for me, it's really hard to say because I feel like this is what we're getting in the ultimate world that we're going to be discussing in a little bit. But that's kind of what I want. At least for, again, someone coming back to Spider-Man, I kind of want a little return to form. Like, bring us back to the simplistics of, Peter just kind of saving the day. Obviously, things will come up through that. But like I said, just a little bit return to form a little bit. And like I said, a lot of what Hickman is already doing in Ultimates is what I would like to see. So, whatever we see next from Spider-Man, I really don't know. In the main title, I don't know where they'll go with this, but I think, at least in my opinion, we need to kind of rein it in a little bit, it seems like.
I'll
Give me
say
some new
this.
villains. Give me some new villains.
Sure.
I like that.
I'll say this. This is what would get me back into Spider-Man and the whole world. Now, I have several ideas on how to approach this, honestly. One is, we bring up the whole anthology thing for a while, right? I do think there should be like a Web of Spider-Man type of anthology that includes like a main Spider-Man story going through, and then you have backups that you can continue on with like Silk stories, Chasm stories, whatever you want to do, Jackpot stories that can just kind of like go through and continue that world, because there's so many spider characters that just kind of like randomly get a limited series every now and then that you can go through and say, see, this is like all our spider characters. When it comes to Peter, right, one of my favorite books, and we'll talk about this later because a new issue came out this week, is Nightwing. And one of the reasons I love this Nightwing book is because it's growing and continuing that character, right? It is expanding upon it. It isn't setting him back and throwing him down into a ditch. It is growing him into where he kind of should be at this point in his life, where we reversed so many stuff. We dragged him back. He was married with a kid. Up, now that's gone again, right? We need to keep pushing him forward, having him grow, because if a character doesn't grow, then we're just seeing the same things over and over again, right? So that's what I want to see. Whatever comes up with Peter Parker next, we need to grow Peter Parker. We need to continue to push him forward, because if we just keep setting him back further to a spot where like we've seen him before, I don't think that's really intriguing anyone, and that's why I do think this Ultimate run that we're going to talk about very soon is as liked and as it is right now, honestly, is because we haven't seen Peter in that position yet. What do you think about that? Would that get you interested again?
I mean, that is a fantastic point. I think you absolutely cooked that because I just 100% agree because again, it feels like Peter is stuck in this kind of weird place, and he has been for a long time. And again, I haven't been reading Spider-Man in a couple years, so if like there could be someone out there who's like, oh well, this issue actually did. I'm not saying overall, but it just seems like Peter Parker as a character has been kind of stuck in this box for a very long time. And I think again, you said it perfectly. We need to see Peter grow and to act like we don't always have to see Peter at the lowest part of his life, right? Like it's like that sometimes he can grow into who he's supposed to be, like you said with Nightwing. So yeah, you absolutely cooked that, dude.
Yep.
Yeah, it's bring a little bit of the hope back into the character, a little bit of the joy, the fun of it all, right? Continue to push him to that next level, to have him be a better Spider-Man. And, honestly, what I'd really like to see is if we feel like we've really stagnated with this character of Peter Parker, have him move away from being the main Spider-Man, bring Miles in to be the main Spider-Man, have him continue and grow as his character himself, and then have Peter backup issues to continue like, hey, we know he's not the main Spider-Man right now, but he's still Spider-Man, or hey, we're just telling a Peter Parker story. Either or I think is cool, but we've talked a lot about this. And also, we have said it so many times, I think Zeb Wells is a fantastic writer, although I'm not a fan of this Amazing Spider-Man series, which I read a lot of it. I did fall off eventually, but I read a lot of it, essentially up until the whole Kamala Khan Miss Marvel thing. Zeb Wells' Hellions, I've mentioned it so many times. I love that book. Yep. Zeb is a great writer. I think this is just kind of like a book that happens. I do think the Spider-Man fandom unfortunately has some very toxic aspects to it. So whoever does come in to take over this role, I really like. Everyone should give them, whoever that comes in, give them time to set up whatever story they're doing. And hopefully for us, it is a story that builds upon Peter, that has him grow as a character. A book that has done that. A little bit of a reset button on it. Yes, that's kind of the whole point of this, but it is a Peter Parker in a situation that we have never seen him in, and that is what we like about it. Ultimate Spider-Man number 6. Jonathan Hickman, Marco Cicchetto. This is the final issue of this first arc, and it really feels like that. This is the first issue of the first part of this version of Spider-Man, a Spider-Man that we've never seen before at this point in his life, where he has 2 kids. He's married to MJ, and we've never seen what ended up like happening at the end of this issue, which is just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Spider-Man finally became Spider-Man in this issue. Fat Thor, what'd you think about this?
Again, absolutely loved it. And I do want to say really quickly before I move on, I appreciate you saying that about Zeb, because I think that's very important. I think the man gets a lot of unnecessary hate. So again, thanks for saying that about Zeb. And also Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, this book, how many more times can I tell y'all to go run to your comic shop and read this book? It is so good. I've said it many, many times before. If you need a great story or an event done, you call Jonathan Hickman. And again, he does not disappoint. For me, while I have loved every issue of this series so far, like literally every issue, I texted Damon this after I read it. I really think that this is the one. Like, this is the issue that really like gets everything moving forward. Like all the pieces that have been set up, this kind of ignites that gas and really is pushing us to where we're going to go in this series. And I think if anyone out there has been kind of wishy-washy on this, or maybe like, oh, I'm not sure about this, pick up issue 6. I think that will definitely sell anybody if you're kind of on the fence of this whole Ultimate Universe or this new version of Peter. But yeah, it's just, I mean, the storytelling, the pacing, the artwork, everything is just, it's a masterclass in comic book storytelling. And I also want to say too, I'm not sure if this is Cicchetto or the colorist, but the paneling structure, I think, in this issue in particular, is very, very cool, very creative, very dynamic with the action. It really makes you feel, and also gives Kingpin, which you see him on the cover, so not really a spoiler, but really gives Kingpin that like sense of scale that I think is sometimes hard to do with some characters, and really make him intimidating across the page. So yeah, I mean, we could make this whole hour just about Ultimate Spider-Man, but yeah, it's just 10 out of 10 in all aspects.
We absolutely could. There's great character moments between Peter and Harry, which I really, really enjoyed too. We have a big kind of final page, full page reveal slash, end of a first arc type of moment that just, a lot of us on social media who saw it gave it a little round of applause. Like, yep, that is beautifully done. Absolutely love that. The aspect of family from here is like really beautiful. And one of my very first criticisms of this book before we move on to the next book, it was when I read this first issue, the very first issue of this run. AF may remember this. It started very grounded, and then it went like a little ultimate crazy, right? And I was worried about that from there. Since then, though, it has been the most grounded ultimate book and one of the most grounded Spider-Man stories I've read in a long while. And that's what I really love about him. For me, that's when I like Spider-Man the most, is when I can relate to it, at least from a Spider-Man level and whatever, from a Peter Parker level, because it's that grounded aspect to it. We're not going super crazy. There are some little ultimate moments in here, but nothing that completely takes me out, almost like what happened in that first issue, which also from like that Ultimates book that we read not too long ago that just came out, that scene makes so much more sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you have like that context of, oh, that's why that was a little weird. And it was a little weird. And they almost like acknowledged the fact that that was a little weird, which I did appreciate. But go pick up this book. This is the best Spider-Man book on the shelf. It's not even close. I think this is what Spider-Man fans have been clamoring for a long time. We want to see Peter in this position, and this is it. Like, this is truly, truly it. I love it. I cannot wait for you to go read this as a trade whenever it comes out, because it is so, so, so beyond worth it.
Yeah, so you don't actually have to, because I picked up the singles, but I didn't read them. So I'm just going to binge it all.
Oh,
you go.
hell yeah.
There you
I was going to
go.
say, I'm about to
in.
mail them to you myself, dude.
I'm just waiting for 6 to come in, and then I'm going to give it a full binge.
There you go. There you go.
Yes.
Sticking with Marvel, we have a few Marvel books today. We have a major revelation in Black Panther 4 Blood Hunt. This is not from the main title, but I think, Fat Thor, we may have just found out who's behind all this.
Maybe. Allegedly, I'll say that.
Go on.
Oh, take it away? Yeah, I mean, dude, Black Panther Blood Hunt, while we've talked about this event as a whole plenty of times already, I think for me, the Black Panther Blood Hunt series has been my favorite of these standalone series. And in this issue, we get this kind of major revelation. Like I said, I'm not sure how it's going to play out yet, but basically in Black Panther Blood Hunt #2, we are introduced to Varney, who is a demon and also was the last vampire to be turned into a vampire in Atlantis, which was mentioned in the main Blood Hunt title. So it's starting to look like, at least from Black Panther Blood Hunt #2, that this Varney demon is actually the one who is behind all of this vampire madness. And it could be the one who is possessing Blade. Because I haven't read the Blade solo series that just ended, but I actually was just talking to a buddy of mine who did read it. And he was telling me that it's no one knows what's going on with Blade. Like, I thought it was like, oh, if you read that, you would know like what's up with Blade, but it's still up in the air of what's going on with him. So I'm thinking that this Varney demon is behind all of this, and he's the one that's possessing Blade and trying to bring the vampires back. And so in Black Panther, we get this revelation of Varney, and we get all of the African gods. So the East African and West African pantheon, they come together, which is Bast, Khonshu, and then there's about 3 or 4 other gods that I'm not as well versed in that mythology as I would like to be, so I'm not sure their names. But they battle Varney to stop him and actually stop him from turning T'Challa's ancestors. And then they banish Varney, but I mean, it's comics. No one's ever gone. No one's ever truly dead. So they specifically say in this issue that while they banished him and like got rid of him, there was a chance for him to return. And now T'Challa, who is the what do they call Avatar of Bast, like her champion, he now has to take care of this problem, basically, that they didn't take care of eons and eons ago. But I know that was a like kind of long explanation, but yeah, I mean, just so cool. And not only that, but Jed, I mean, I know Jed didn't write this issue, but he's doing the Blood Hunt as a whole. If that's the route he's going, Damon, you said it perfectly. My man is hitting the Marvel Wikipedia hard because Varney is a deep cut. I mean, I was doing some research on him. I can't remember his first appearance, but he was actually in a Thor book. He actually appeared in a Thor book way back. So yeah, he's a very deep cut, and I'm very, very interested to see where they take all of that. If that's the case, we don't know if that's really what's going on with Blade yet. But yeah, just, I mean, so freaking cool.
Yeah, I was going to shout out Vin, who does amazing comic guides. You summed what he set up very well. And we've interviewed Jed McKay here right on this show. I've joked around with him being like, man, dude, you love to pull up some crazy stuff sometimes. He's done it in so many of his books. And he's straight up said he has like 20 plus tabs from the Marvel wikis just kind of like up, having like, because that is,
I love it so much.
It's so well organized, like really. And you can like look for a character that perfectly fits the story that you're trying to tell from a past, or you just want to connect it. And you can make some people happy in the process with that too. But I just think it's interesting that, you know, a major revelation in this isn't in a main book. So, you know,
this book has been so good, though. The first issue was incredible. Like the way that they're handling T'Challa being a vampire and like what that really means from like the spiritual side of his connection with Bast. I mean, it's so good. So well done.
So that is Black Panther Blood Hunt #2, a major revelation there.
Read it.
I know you're gonna tell me to read this.
Dude, you're just putting me on a tangent today, huh?
Oh yeah, let's go. Tell me why I should read this.
Immortal Thor. I mean, I have been singing the praises of this book for a long time now, for 12 issues, in fact. But this issue, again, just another classic into this epic saga that Al Ewing is crafting with Thor. And it is just so impressive. Being a Thor fan, it's so impressive to see how Al is taking both Thor's history in the comics and real mythology to kind of bring all that together to push this narrative forward in the story that he's trying to tell. It's just a masterclass work. And I got to shout out slight spoilers for this book, but in this issue, he brings back a character called Tiwaz. I think I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but Tiwaz is actually, his real name is actually Buri Allfather, who is the father of Bor, who is that. So it's basically Thor's great grandfather. I won't go through the whole lineage, but it's Thor's great grandfather. And last time we saw him, and anyone in the comments can correct me if I'm missing an issue here or there, but in my memory, the last time that we saw him was actually in Thor 355 from Walt Simonson, which was years and years ago. So the fact that Al like remembered that, brought that back, and to bring it back into this story and to push again his narrative forward that he's telling now is just like, again, masterclass storytelling. So freaking cool. We get awesome Thor battles. We get all of the Odin children, some that most people probably have never even heard of. So, I mean, it's just, again, just another great entry into, you can tell it's like a big saga that Al is, you know, unfolding before us issue by issue. So if you're a fan of Thor, I cannot recommend picking this up enough. Again, it deals with his entire history as a character. He's Al is bringing things in from every corner of Thor's mythos, and it's fantastic. Again, we could do a whole hour just about Immortal Thor, but yes, pick it up. Even if you're not well versed in the Thor lore, Al does a great job with kind of laying it out for you as well. So don't let that deter you either. But yeah, pick up Immortal Thor, read it right now.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if somebody's coming in completely blind on the Thor character, picking up the first issue, like is it cool?
Yeah, first
Are they
issue
going to
for
be lost
sure.
at all?
No, if you start from the beginning, you can for sure just hop in very clean. You can, even if you've never read a Thor book in your life. I will say it is getting very deep in with the lore, but at least in my opinion, in a way that will treat fans who do know, but not in a way that could confuse a new fan, right? Like you can read what's on the page and just be content with that. But if you are familiar with Thor or even like again real Norse mythology, there's a lot of things in there that are like, I don't want to say Easter eggs, but you know what I mean? It's like, oh, like I know that, right? Like, oh, I remember that, but never too much to where I think someone who doesn't know about that, it would confuse them, right? It's kind of more of a treat for us in the know, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah, but so great. I love it.
Jed McKay must have given Al Ewing his login for those Marvel wikis to go
Yeah.
back and find some of these characters, man, because
Well, I
it's
know
really
Al read
it's
like
really impressive.
yeah, he read like every Thor book, I'm pretty sure, before he started this. So my man knows his lore for sure.
AF, your turn. This is a book that came out a few weeks ago. We got Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider Stephanie Phillips on this. What you got?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you guys have been following Ghost Spider. I think she's only had like minis and small appearances in other people's books, and but yeah, she's finally got her own title, her own ongoing title, written by Stephanie Phillips, illustrated by Frederica Manson. I think that's who does the art. Yeah, and colored by Matt Miller. So essentially, I didn't know what was going on with Gwen coming into this book. I thought I'm just going to go in, pick the book up, and start reading. Immediately, very first page, it shows the events of 616 Gwen Stacy dying. You know, the big queen. That cut to the chase. Basically a recollection of Gwen Stacy from Earth 65, just telling the readers who don't know, I don't know who doesn't know about that, but just telling the readers this is what happened to 616 Gwen Stacy, and the 65 Gwen Stacy is now on 616 permanently, and that is because she's in some sort of multiversal witness protection program from the Time Variance Authority.
Oh
And
boy.
she's not allowed to wear a costume. She's not allowed to use her powers. And there is another MCU character that pops up in this book by the name of OB, or Ouroboros, from
No,
Loki.
Oh boy.
shut up, AF. Are you
So
serious?
if you love the Loki
Oh,
show and you love the Spider-Verse movies, give this book a read because I feel like you'll have a great time. There are some really underwhelming moments in it. I think I would probably give this one about a 6.7 out of 10. But I mean, it's the first issue, it can only get better. And the art is absolutely amazing. I mean, you can feel every single thing on every page. And there's so many flashbacks to the 616 Gwen, and 65 Gwen has these sort of flashbacks, and she didn't even live the life. So I love how they sort of mixing those two things up. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I can't wait for issue 2. I'm hooked.
dude, Ouroboros. I'm picking up this issue immediately after that. I think.
Yeah.
See, I don't want to go on a huge tangent here. I swear, guys, I won't. But I don't know. I think that bringing in some MCU aspects to some books, I really enjoy. Like the pitch that you just gave me, AF. I think that sounds awesome. Like that sounds so fun. And I think sometimes it's good to bring these stuff in because it's like, hey, remember this thing that you liked in Loki? Well, we have that too. Like, so you should check this out,
Yep.
right? And I think it's a good way to bring new people into books that they might otherwise not pick up. Because I mean, no diss to Gwen Stacy. I love Gwen Stacy, love Ghost Spider, all that. But I probably would not have picked that book up if you hadn't have told me that. But that immediately piques my interest. So again, I'm not going to go on a huge tangent, but I just want to say people who freak out about that kind of stuff, maybe take it easy a little bit and just kind of have fun with it. Because that sounds amazing. I'm like super excited about it just from you telling me that. So
And
yeah, that's awesome.
the funny part is he's supposed to be her handler. So he has to make sure that she doesn't use her powers, she doesn't wear the costume, and he has to basically keep her in check. So yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be like a sort of fun ongoing interaction between the two of them as the series goes on.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm still not a fan of things getting a little too MCU-y, because there's
a line.
A big difference. There is a big difference between like Marvel Comics fans and Marvel MCU fans, right? There is a line, and you don't want to like cross it too much. I am a little sad that she's not in Earth 65 anymore because I actually really enjoyed Earth 65. You ever read the Radioactive Spider-Gwen? The Radioactive Ghost Spider, whatever. Radioactive series that was so good. And there's some really cool kind of like twists that you'd see, like we do see in the Ultimate Universe, where it's like, oh wow, that's like this version of this character. That's so crazy that, Matt Murdock is like kind of an evil guy in this, right? Like there's really cool little twists in those universes that I really enjoy. So it's a little bit of a bummer for me that Earth 65's done because I like that universe. But, Spider-Gwen, she's a cool character. We like her from the movies, animated, elsewise. I'll check it out. But that's done with our Marvel section. We've gone on for Marvel for like 30 straight minutes, which is crazy for us. We're going to go into a quick little DC section, and naturally, I have to start off the DC section with my boy. Nightwing 115, Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo, part 2 of 5 of the final saga, The Fallen Grayson. And this issue picks right up from our, the first part of part 1 does, naturally, as comic books do. And we are starting to see Dick really, literally fall, right? Like, it's the public perception of him by the end of this issue changes drastically from where it was literally just 3 issues ago, where he's at his peak as both Dick Grayson and Nightwing. Or at least as Dick Grayson, because he still has like this problem as Nightwing where he can't jump. He can't leap. It's kind of a problem for him since, he kind of swings around through cities and whatnot. I just enjoy this series. I really do. I'm curious to see how this next issue is going to wrap up, because the big revelation by the end of this issue is so massive for this entire saga. And I think the villain choice here of creating this new villain named Heartless, we're starting to see him be less ruthless physically, and he's a very fascinating planner, which makes a very interesting villain, not just someone that literally steals people's hearts, but also like can manipulate an entire city to do his will out of fear. So I've been enjoying this. I'm curious to see how this wraps up. I don't know if by the end of this, I will put it above at least level-ish with my Matt Fraction Hawkeye run. And it's just because we had like an 8 to 10 issue period where we moved so far away from the story because it was tying into like the Titans book. And then the Beast World stuff happened. And then, okay, now we're doing Dick Grayson as a pirate arc type for a little bit. Okay, it's like, all right, now we're back. So it's like, all right, there was like a little bit of a period where like, all right, I feel like we lost the plot a little bit, but that's almost, it's the fun of comics. You can have little side quests, but it was like a 10 issue side quest that was like, all right, let's get back to this. And now we're back. And now we're doing a nice, not even a sprint because it's 5 issues, but a good jog to the end. I can't wait to see more. I can't wait to see more. I love this book. I love this character. When this run officially ends, I'm going to need something in memoriam because I will not be okay.
Do we still not know what Tom Taylor is doing next?
Nope. We do not. We do not. And we don't know who would be taking over that book when it ends. So, how about that?
Isn't he bringing back Steel, Dark Knights of Steel? Isn't that coming back? I want to say I saw that.
He's being so cryptic whenever he tweets, and he doesn't want to give anything away.
Hey, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Our other DC book we got. This is your pick. This has been your book now for a year straight. Green Arrow. What you got?
Dude, 100% zero regrets. This book has been, after Superman, it's probably been my favorite DC book since the dawn of DC released. And there's going to be so many payoffs when Absolute Power begins. I think, when's it, next month?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think it's going to be one of the first tie-in books to that big storyline. And the breadcrumbs have been laid. And this one, it was more of closing the story that started right at the beginning with issue 1, with the whole Merlin story, and just closing the door on all of that. It was a very thin book. It wasn't a long read on most pages, as well. It was a lot of art, not a lot of text. So yeah, Oliver Queen and his family, the Arrow fam, they all just came together, defeated Merlin really quickly, and it ended on this really wholesome moment with the entire Arrow fam going to Lianyu and going to the island, and they're all just chilling in their summer bikinis, playing volleyball, having a good time, taking the break that they so richly deserve. And yeah, it ends on the page with Ollie and Diana. They're just talking about what's coming next, and it's to be continued in the next book, and that's going to be centered around Amanda Waller. And we know that she's going to be extremely huge in this Absolute Power storyline. So yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next.
We mentioned this book is going to be one of the important ones in Absolute Power, if not one of the most important, because we have a little bit of like an Absolute Power reading list, which is very cool. And also, we mentioned it last week how Blood Hunt has had 21 issues, including tie-ins, just in the month of June alone. Well, if you think that's too much, how about we at least cut that in half, right? So Absolute Power, from starting in June, where we have like an issue 0 for it, the very first official tie-in is Green Arrow. And then we move on to the next month, where it's just 10 issues of the main story. We have like our B story, and then all the tie-ins. And the tie-ins are, you know, your Batman, your Green Lantern, your Wonder Woman, your Green Arrow, right? It's the main, you know, the Justice League type of books, plus your main stories. I think that as an idea, just from it not being too overwhelming, is just such a good idea. I'm going to pull up the list right now because it's less underwhelming. So here we go. We have Absolute Power 1 just in July, Task Force 7, and then a limited series called Absolute Power Origins, and then it looks like Task Force will be like a weekly release ish, weekly-ish release, and the tie-ins: Batman, Green Lantern, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Green Arrow. Those are your tie-ins. We're not going anything further than that. I assume any other book that's going on from Dawn of DC will still be continuing their stories, like Titans, which I've been really enjoying. So hopefully nothing too crazy happens in that, and those can kind of just like live and tell those stories while this whole big Absolute Power event is happening. And then August, again, we have Absolute Power number 2, the Task Force Origins, Task Force again, with those 5 tie-ins. That's it. Yeah. That's what this event is. It's very easy to keep up with this event, honestly, just from like a very simple point of view of like looking at what you need. It's not overwhelming. I think 10 books a month, including tie-ins, is a very easy ask. Not an easy ask, but it's not like an overwhelming ask. So I think that's good.
Yeah, and just a quick one. So the Green Arrow book, it was supposed to be 12 issues and done.
Hmm.
It wasn't supposed to be longer than that. And then they got the green light on an ongoing series, which I'm extremely happy for. But just like a small little nod to that, on the final page over here, read the quiver.
I can't read that from here. Tell me what it says.
It just says, "Thank you to all the Green Arrow readers." And I mean, that's such an amazing touch.
Nice.
I
Such
love
an
Love
that.
that.
amazing touch.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. Sean Isaacs. Absolute shout out to him. We've interviewed him here on the show before, and I'm glad that you've been enjoying the series. I still need to jump into it.
Yep.
I know. We move on. That was our DC section. We have a quick Boone Studios section. Uncanny Valley #3. Tony Fleeks, David Wachter. This has been fun. I think that's the best word to describe this, Fat Thor. Is this book has been fun. You get a little bit of Who Framed Roger Rabbit in there from like real world stuff with cartoon aspect, a little bit of Chosen One aspect to this as well. And this issue pushes things through and gives me a little twist that I wasn't expecting, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, hit the nail right on the head. This book has just been so fun, also creative. I love how Tony has been playing with like the real world versus cartoon like logic in the storytelling. I think that's super well done. I mean, and Dave Wagner, I mean, come on. What else can I say about the man? His art is so good. I loved his stuff in Punisher from David Pepose that just ended not too long ago. And I was talking to I had Tony Fleece on our show, and I was talking to him, and he told me that he thinks that this is Dave's best work. And I was like, I mean, I love Punisher so much, it's hard to believe that. But I think he was 100% right. Like, this is some of Dave's best work. It is just his drawing and coloring is just so good, and it fits the tone of this book, I think, just absolutely perfectly. So, I mean, yeah, it's so good. If you're a fan of like the more creative, kind of wonky storytelling, or like you said, Roger Rabbit, definitely pick this up. I mean, you pick it up for the art alone, but you'll also get a great story on top of it as well. Shout out Tony and Dave. This has been awesome. Also, I want to shout out to Feral has been absolutely great by Tony Fleece as well. So yeah, it's so good. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, this story has been nothing short of nostalgic to a point, especially with the art style. You see a lot of old-timey cartoons in here, but a different variety of old-timey cartoons. You know, we've had like old Disney-esque style ones with like some of the villain wolves, and then Sunday morning cartoons, little Transformer style cartoons. That's the fun of when you have a world like this where it's like cartoons are real. You can mess around with the different styles of cartoon. So that's where Dave Wachter is just really shines here, just because he's able to show his range as an artist and not just have like one particular style throughout. He's able to introduce almost like whatever he wants that just fits the story. So it's been a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying that. And from a book that we just read to Solicits season, a books that we will be reading down the road. I love Solicits season because there's nothing more fun than speculating and looking ahead and getting excited for something. And when this was announced from Boom Studios, my ears perked way up. Way up. Because you say, hey, Jeff Lemire, you want to make a book? Sure, I'm listening. Do the art for it. Do the writing for it. And this is called Minor Arcana. And here's a quote here that just got me wicked excited for this. I have big plans for this series, having already plotted through the first 22 issues. If Black Hammer was my love letter to superhero comics I grew up reading, then Minor Arcana is my love letter to classic Vertigo comics of my youth, but filtered through my own style. I really want to go back to doing an ongoing series that focuses on the importance of single issues again.
Tell
I'm
me
sold.
more, Jeff. Tell me more.
I am so sold. So this essentially follows a story of a girl who falls upon tarot cards from her mother. Oh no, looks like the tarot actually has some real magic to it. Bang, bang, boom. You throw some magic in there. You throw a little bit of creepiness factor in there. He mentioned Black Hammer for like 0.2 seconds, which got me excited. We've had so many people who like just love that Black Hammer book. Shadow Adam from comicbook.com, because he got me on that Black Hammer book, which I love. So I'm so excited for this. This is pre-ordered instantly, an instant pre-order. So if any of this sounds good to you, go check that out. I know what you did last crisis, AF. Oh, there you go.
Dude.
The stretch. Here we go. Let's do this.
Dude, when I saw this, I was super curious, and I mean, everybody knows when you're reading a title like that, you instantly think slasher. That's where my mind went to
Mhm.
initially, and just like reading the synopsis. Actually, let me just pull up the synopsis real quick, and then I'll give that a read. Um, and it goes, in the blackest night, when the darkness feels infinite, the very fabric of the universe begins to tear as every major crisis in the DCU history rises once again. These eight chilling tales, set during the events of Crisis Past, serve to warn you, dear reader, when in crisis, watch your back. In the fractured world of Flashpoint, Professor Pig is stalking Gotham City's nightclubs, snuffing out our victims. During Blackest Night, Scarecrow lurks outside a movie theater, recruiting new test subjects to perform his fear toxin. Even heroes like Nightwing aren't safe when his death might just have the power to reverse the damage of Infinite Crisis. All these, plus new stories from Crisis on Infinite Earths, Millennium, Zero Hour, The Final Night, and Final Crisis, are collected in DC's I Know What You Did Last Crisis, a deadly new horror anthology coming to haunt you this fall. So when I read that, I'm like, dude, are we getting a serial killer horror anthology just mixed in with all of those crisis stories? Dude, instant winner.
Yep.
I am so hyped for this book. I cannot wait. I had a chat with Dan Didio at Cape Town Comic Con a couple of months ago. He's a super nice guy. He is super, super talented. The guy was a cornerstone of DC Comics for a very, very long time. So I don't doubt what I'm going to be getting over here. I'm ready for this, dude. What do you guys think?
Say, do you want to take it away, Damon, or?
Yeah, I mean, look, horror, anthology, sold. Thank you very much. I will be reading this. Like, would I like it not to only be about crisis stories, honestly? Yeah, that would have been a little more up my alley, but hey, I've been asking for more anthologies. I love horror comics. You put the two of them together, I'm a happy reader.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I told you before we started recording this, I was so glad that you picked this as yours, because I was going to pick it as mine before I went through and saw the book that I did eventually pick. But yeah, I mean, it just sounds so cool, so fun. Like we talk about with a lot of these other comics, like I'm just a fan of a good creative and fun idea. And to me, bringing the, like, I know what you did last summer kind of concept to the DC world and adding in the crisis on top of that, that to me is just a super creative and fun idea. So just the premise alone absolutely sold me. And knowing that it's also an anthology, which I love, I mean, just
Yep.
ticks all the boxes for me. I cannot wait. And I love this cover too. I think the cover really kind of puts you into the mood of what the book will be. Again, kind of a funny, but like creepy horror kind of vibe. So
Yep.
yeah, 100% sold.
One last one. We're sticking with DC Fat Thor. Is that an Elseworld story?
Of course it is. Of course. I love DC Elseworld stories. And this one, again, just ticks all the boxes for me. Like I just said, I was about to pick the I Know What You Did Last Crisis until I scrolled down a couple more and I saw Barbarian Batman. I mean, come on, dudes. That title alone should just hook you immediately. It hooked me. I mean, what else more can I say? Again, Barbarian Batman. That's really all I needed to hop on this book, and I think it just sounds awesome. I was a real big fan of Tom Taylor's Dark Knights of Steel that we mentioned very briefly. So having this kind of fill that sort of similar vein, I am just, again, 100% sold on it. I am also a huge fantasy nerd. I'm actually going through my rereading of Lord of the Rings as we speak. So again, putting Batman in kind of a fantasy world, barbarian fighting like monsters or orcs, whatever it may be, I'm there, front
I
row,
love that.
popcorn ready. I am there, and I am so excited. I can't even remember what the synopsis for it said, because again, I saw Barbarian Batman, and I went blank. I'm like, oh, that's my book.
Yeah, I love this. Just from looking at, I didn't read the synopsis, as you said as well, Fat Thor, but just like from looking at this, it just makes the imagination go a bit wild.
Yeah,
Batman slaying dragons, slaying orcs, slaying whatever's going to come in his way, out in the wild, out in the jungle. I love it. Eh, the possibilities are endless.
yeah, and I really love to. Sorry, Damon, I don't mean to cut off your time here real quick, but I just really love. I think Batman particularly works so well in these kind of like fantasy kind of roles, because I think it really works with the whole concept of like fear and like using fear as like a tool, right? Because it's like you got magicians and wizards and stuff like that who know this dude could really be like a bat dude, right? So I think that
Yeah.
adds like a whole other layer to the already great concept of Batman himself. So yeah, I just love it. That's my last
That
point though.
I was just going to say that that necklace looks very Wakanda-ish, though.
Very primal in a way where it's like got the teeth necklace.
Yeah.
It's cool. But look, Batman with a sword. Yes, please. I'm sold.
Yeah.
Next book, our last book. Vault Comics. Goobers. Look, you gave me like a creepy story about like some creepy little bug things taking over a town, man. Cool art in here. It's like almost like get like that new school, crazy warped head. Like Fat Thor, you mentioned like mad comics, like
Mhm.
like weirdness, right? Everything's got a little warped perception to it. Crazy colors, very green vibe. Cody Ziegler, Ryan Lee, solid team right there on the titling for the creative team. I'm in. I'm in. This just it looks fun. I actually got a little bit of a preview for this on the back issues backup for something crawled out, and it looked fun, dude. It looked fun.
Yeah. I mean, a title like Goobers, I'm sold
Goobers.
already. I love that title. But I agree. We talked about this very briefly. I agree, though. To me, the cover sold me on it. I really like the cover. I think it really kind of invokes a lot of questions. And also, like you said, the kind of skew in perspective. It really
Mm.
reminds me of like Mad Magazine, that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
Yep.
the cover alone immediately grabbed me. And then hearing more about it, I think it sounds like a win to me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I looked at this cover. I'm like, why does this look so familiar? And I mean, Mad Magazine, you like hit the nail on the head there.
Mhm.
Like it's exactly like that.
Yep, it's got that vibe, a little bit of a creepy horror comedy aspect to it. If you want some of that in your lives, definitely go check that out. Make sure you follow Vault Comics on socials because they've been giving away like, you can sign up at least to get the first issue of some of these series for free. For free. So then there's a
Free.
great free way to get into these comics, into these stories, and then you can continue there. Because that's what I did with Something Crawled Out. Lilith's the same way. Keep an eye out. Maybe they'll do the same here for Goobers. That'll do it for this week's episode. Are there any books coming out, Fat Thor, next week that you're keeping an eye
Oh,
on?
I mean, probably. I gotta look at my list. There's,
I
you know
ask
how
you
it
every
is.
week.
Yeah, there's so many books coming all the time. I'm just like, I don't know where my head's at half the time. But I mean, anything Jed McKay. If something Jed McKay is coming out next week, that'll probably be one of my picks. I know Immortal Thor is not coming, so yeah, whatever Jed's cooking.
I'll give you both a book that I know AF is very patiently waiting for. Are you ready, Fat Thor? Because it is Zatanna. Bring Down the House. Black Label first issue coming out next week. We'll absolutely talk about that. Something's killing the children. One of my favorite stories on the shelves right now. And we're in an arc right here. We're in a story arc that is intentionally, beautifully done introduction arc for anyone just trying to dip their toes into the water, see if they like this world. Where normally it's like one shots per this arc until it ends. But if you just want to taste what something's killing the children, is like, definitely go check out these last few issues, including the Shitsu coming out next week, because it is perfect for introduction, perfect for new readers. And if you've been following this series, we're essentially going back further in time to see little stories in our main character Erica Slaughter's life that will, I'm sure, play a factor once this arc ends in the main continuity of all. And I believe, yes, Black Widow and Hawkeye, that miniseries is coming to a close. So we may chat about that as well. Fat Thor, AF, where can people find you on the socials? AF, you first.
Yeah, at AFBarker642 on all social media platforms. I'm currently tweeting a lot about the Euros, which is currently going on. But yeah, if you wanna come chat with me, I'm available.
Love it. You can find me at _Fat Thor. You can also find me at the Sons of Mjolnir. That's Mjolnir like Thor's hammer. That is my other comic book show where we do creator interviews, all that good stuff. You can find that on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. But yeah, come find me. Let's talk nerd stuff. I'm always available and I am always down. Just, you know where to find me. Oh, and of course, Agents of Fandom and the Comic Corner is another place you can find me. Make sure to follow them on all your socials as well and get all of your great comic and entertainment news.
We do it all here at the Agents of Fandom. Like Fat Thor said, make sure you follow Agents of Fandom on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. And of course, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell on YouTube, subscribe to Agents of Fandom wherever you get that podcast, and please smash that like button because it helps with the algorithm. And we had like the most views we've ever had on the show last week, and that was because people liked the video and came out to watch the video, which helps with views. So make sure you do that, because yeah, you know what happens when you get more views? People watch it. My brain is completely toast right now. I've been watching almost this entire time a wasp building that's outside my window, which is why I keep looking up, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to go get that thing and handle all this when we are done. Not looking forward to that. Jeez, man. Not looking forward to that. But as AF mentioned, Euro's going on, and hey, we got a little matchup today. Spain, Italy, two very small teams in Europe. That should be a very exciting match. You can find me on Twitter at Damon Tweet. You can find the show on Twitter at Comic Corner Pod, where we give our social reviews also on the Agents Fandom account, but we give more of them on the Comic Corner account. We give first look to upcoming comics, first pages, reveals, announcements, all of it. Make sure you follow it to keep up with everything comic book related. We got you there. We want to hear your thoughts too, so make sure you hit us up there. And on TikTok, I changed my handle on TikTok, so it's no longer at Damon Talks Comics. It is at Comic Corner Pod, so we'll be talking more comics on TikTok. I don't know why I did this now. Isn't that app like getting canceled by the government or something? I don't know. We'll see. Follow us on TikTok.
Until then, we'll be talking comics, baby.
Yeah, I'll be able to enjoy it. I guess.
Yeah, AF will carry it on for us.
For the rest of the world.
That'll do it for this week's episode. Make sure you go read some comics, go support your local comic shops, and until next time.